He satisfies at me from across the conference table like I was still the little girl he used to pat on the head and send away. Sloane, the family needs you. The company needs you. I'm asking you to come back and fix this. My father, Donald Wheeler, sat in a chair that used to feel like a throne. Now it just looked like a cage. His empire was crumbling. His golden son had burned it to the ground. And his forgotten daughter was the only one who could save it. I leaned back, crossed my legs and smiled. I'll save it, Dad. But when I'm done, there won't be a single Wheeler left in charge. Except me. His face went pale. That was the moment 30 years of silence finally satisfies itself. Before I tell you how we got here, tell me, where are you listening from? Drop your location so I know I'm not alone. I grew up in a house that smelled like leather and old money. Wheeler Industries was founded by my grandfather in 1962. Steel manufacturing, then construction, then real estate development. By the time my father took over, it was worth $400 million. By the time I was born, it was the only thing he truly loved. I don't say that to be dramatic. I say it because it's true. Donald Wheeler had 2 children. Bradley came first. The heir, the golden boy, the one whose birth announcement made the business section of the local paper. 4 years later I arrived. There was no announcement. There was barely acknowledgement. Another girl would have been fine, my mother once told me, wine loose and careless. But one was enough. He wanted a son. When Bradley came, everything made sense. When you came, she shrugged. You were just extra. Extra. That word defined my childhood more than I'd like to admit. Bradley got the corner bedroom with the view of the gardens. I got the small room near the back stairs. More practical, my mother said, though she never explained for what. Bradley's birthdays were catered events with ice sculptures and live musicians. Mine were quiet dinners, if remembered at all. When I was 7, I asked my father why Bradley got to go to his office on weekends and I didn't. He looked at me with genuine confusion. Because Bradley will run this company someday. What would you do there, sweetheart? Play with dolls. I didn't play with dolls. I read. I studied. I watched. I watched my father conduct business calls, absorbing the rhythm of negotiation. I watched my mother shrink herself to fit inside his expectations. I watched Bradley coast through life on a cushion of privilege and assumption. Never once questioned, never once doubted. And I decided, somewhere in the quiet of my forgotten bedroom, that I would prove them all wrong. School was my first battlefield. Bradley was an average student. CS and DS. Occasionally AB when a tutor intervened. But it didn't matter. He's got business sense, my father would say. Book smarts aren't everything. I graduated valedictorian. Summa cum laude in undergrad. Top of my class in my MBA program. I collected achievements like weapons, stockpiling them for a war I knew was coming. My father attended Bradley's graduation from a mediocre state school. He threw a party, bought him a car, talked about it for months. He didn't come to mine. I had a meeting, he said when I called. But congratulations. I'm sure you did fine. Fine. Valedictorian. Full scholarship. Job offers from 3 Fortune 500 companies. Fine. When I was 22, I made a decision that would shape the next decade of my life. I turned down every outside offer and applied to work at Wheeler Industries. Entry level. No special treatment. I wanted to learn the company from the ground up, to understand every gear and lever, every strength and weakness. My father was surprised. You want to work here? Doing what? Whatever needs to be done. He laughed, not unkindly but dismissively. All right, sweetheart. We'll find something for you. They put me in accounts receivable. A tiny desk in a basement office, processing invoices 8 hours a day. It was tedious, thankless, invisible work. I loved it. Not the work itself but what it taught me. I learned how money moved through the company. I learned which departments were profitable and which were bleeding cash. I learned who worked hard and who coasted, who had ideas and who had connections. I stayed late. I arrived early. I asked questions that made my supervisors uncomfortable. Within 6 months, I knew more about Wheeler Industries' finances than people who had worked there for decades. When I requested a transfer to operations, my supervisor laughed. "You're an accounts girl, Sloane. Stay in your lane." I went over his head, then over that head. Kept going until someone said yes. Operations taught me logistics, supply chains, vendor relationships, the brutal mathematics of efficiency. I found a flaw in our shipping contracts that was costing us $2 million a year. Fixed it. No one thanked me. No one even acknowledged it. But I kept the documentation. I kept everything. Marketing came next. Then legal. Then business development. Each department was a new education, a new set of skills, a new understanding of how the machine worked. By the time I was 28, I had worked in every major division of Wheeler Industries. I had an MBA from a top 10 program, earned at night while working 60-hour weeks. I had brought in clients worth $40 million in new contracts, and I was still invisible. Bradley, meanwhile, had joined the company at 26. He started in the C-suite, Executive Vice President of Strategic Development, a title that meant nothing and everything. He had an office on the top floor and assistant a company car. He attended meetings and nodded along. He repeated things smarter people said and pretended they were his ideas. My ideas sometimes. I'd watch him present strategies I had developed, taking credit with a smile that never reached his eyes. I'd watch my father beam at him, proud, certain that the future of Wheeler Industries was secure. I said nothing. I documented everything. "Why don't you speak up?" my colleague Marcus asked me once. He was one of the few who saw what was happening. "Everyone knows those are your ideas." "Not everyone," I said. "Not the people who matter. So make them matter. Demand credit. Fight for it." I shook my head. Fighting gets you noticed. It also gets you fired. "I'm not ready yet." "Ready for what?" I didn't answer. But I knew. I was building a case. Record. Proof of everything I had contributed and everything that had been taken from me. When the time came, I wouldn't need to fight. I would simply show them. The breaking point came on my 28th birthday. I had requested a meeting with my father, a formal one, scheduled through his assistant, treated like any other business appointment. I wore my best suit. I brought a portfolio of my accomplishments, every project I'd led, every client I'd brought in, every cost I'd cut, every system I'd improved. I asked for a seat on the executive team. My father flipped through the portfolio like it was a magazine he'd already read. Then he set it down and looked at me with something between pity and amusement. "Sloane, you've done good work. Really. But the executive team? That's not really the place for you." "Why not?" "Because you're a woman, sweetheart. The board, the investors, the partners, they expect a certain image. Bradley has that image. You." He spread his hands, as if the conclusion was obvious. "I've outperformed Bradley in every metric for 6 years. Metrics aren't everything. What about the Hanover account?" I brought that in. Bradley presented it as his. "Bradley is the face of the next generation. You're the support structure. And there's nothing wrong with that. The support structure. You'll find a good husband, have some kids, maybe do some consulting on the side if you want to stay busy. But running a company like this..." He shook his head. "That's not your path, Sloane. It never was." I sat there perfectly still, feeling something inside me calcify into diamond. "Girls don't run companies," he continued almost gently. "They marry men who do. That's just how it works. I'm not being cruel, I'm being realistic. Bradley will take over when I retire. That's the plan. That's always been the plan." I picked up my portfolio. Understood. "Thank you for your time, Dad." He smiled, relieved that I wasn't making a scene. "Of course, sweetheart. Doors always open." I walked out of his office and never went back. My resignation letter was 3 sentences. "I am resigning from Wheeler Industries effective immediately. Thank you for the opportunity to learn. I wished the company success in its future endeavors. I didn't explain. I didn't complain. I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me upset. I just left. For 3 months I did nothing. Arrested. Processed. I let the anger transform from fire into ice. Then I started planning. I had savings. Years of living frugally while earning well. I had knowledge. A decade of understanding exactly how Wheeler Industries worked and where its weaknesses lay. And I had something my father never expected me to have. Ambition that wouldn't be dismissed. I founded Apex Development with a single client and a rented office the size of a closet. Real estate development, the same industry as Wheeler, but focused on the markets they'd ignored. Sustainable buildings, affordable housing, urban renewal projects that didn't just generate profit but created value. My father had always said there was no money in doing good. I proved him wrong. The first year was brutal. 80-hour weeks. Rejections. Doors slammed in my face because I was young, because I was a woman, because I didn't have the Wheeler name behind me. But I also had something Bradley never developed. Resilience. Every no made me sharper. Every failure taught me something. Every obstacle became a stepping stone. By year 2, Apex had 5 employees and 10 million in contracts. By year 3, 20 employees and 50 million. By year 5, we were a serious player in markets Wheeler Industries had abandoned or never entered. I wasn't trying to compete with my father's company. Not directly. I was building something parallel, something that would grow in the spaces they didn't know how to fill. And I was watching, waiting. I met Victor Hale at an industry conference in year 4. He was tall, dark-haired, sharp-eyed, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke and noticed more than he revealed. He ran a private equity firm that specialized in distressed assets. Companies that were failing. Companies that needed rescue. We talked for 3 hours that first night. Not flirting, debating. He challenged my assumptions. Challenged his. By the end of the evening, I respected him more than anyone I'd met in years. "You're going to be big," he said as we exchanged cards. "I can see it. I already am." He smiled. "I mean bigger. The kind of big that scares people. Is that a warning? It's an observation. And maybe a compliment." We became partners first. A joint venture on a development project that tripled both our returns. Then we became more. Not the whirlwind romance my mother had always pushed me toward, but something steadier. Partnership of equals. A relationship built on mutual respect rather than traditional expectations. By year 6 we were engaged. Not because I needed a husband but because I wanted this one. While I was building, Bradley was destroying. I kept tabs on Wheeler Industries, quietly, through industry contacts and public filings. The picture that emerged was exactly what I expected. Bradley made decisions based on ego rather than analysis. He hired friends instead of talent. He ignored market shifts and doubled down on strategies that had stopped working years ago. The Hanover account I had brought in, lost within 2 years. The shipping efficiencies I had created, abandoned for a new system that cost 3 times as much. The sustainable building division I had proposed, rejected as not profitable enough. Meanwhile, Apex was doing exactly those things and thriving. My father refused to see it. Every time Wheeler lost ground, he blamed the market, the economy, the competition. Never Bradley. Never himself. "He's too proud to admit he bet on the wrong horse," Victor said once, reviewing Wheeler's latest quarterly report. "They're bleeding. Another few years like this and they'll be in serious trouble." I know. Does that make you happy? Thought about it. No. But it makes me ready. Year 8 was when everything changed. Wheeler Industries announced a major expansion, a risky bet on international markets that Bradley had championed. They borrowed heavily, overextended their resources, and ignored every warning sign. 6 months later the project collapsed. The international partner backed out. The loans came due. The stock price cratered. By the end of the year, Wheeler Industries was on the edge of bankruptcy. I learned about it from a news alert on my phone. I was in my corner office, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, when the notification appeared. Wheeler Industries seeks emergency financing amid liquidity crisis. I read it twice. Then I called Victor. Did you see? Yes. I'm looking at it now. They're in worse shape than the article suggests. My sources say they have maybe 6 months before they default. Who's handling the restructuring? Nobody yet. The banks are circling. A few private equity firms are sniffing around for a fire sale. I was quiet for a long moment. What are you thinking? Victor asked. I'm thinking that I've been waiting for this moment for 8 years. Sloane. Not revenge. Justice. There's a difference. I heard him exhale. What do you want to do? I want to buy Wheeler Industries. The call from my father came 3 weeks later. I was in a meeting when my assistant interrupted. Your father is on line 1. He says it's urgent. I excused myself and took the call in my private office. Sloane. His voice sounded older than I remembered. Tired. I need to see you. In person. Why? Because I need your help. I could have made him wait. Could have made him suffer the way he'd made me suffer. But that wasn't the point. The point was never cruelty. The point was showing him exactly who I had become. I'll be there tomorrow. I walked into Wheeler Industries headquarters for the first time in 8 years. The building hadn't changed. Same marble lobby, same portraits of my grandfather and father on the walls. But the energy was different. The receptionist's smile was strained. The employees moved with the hunched shoulders of people waiting for bad news. I took the elevator to the top floor. To my father's office. He was waiting for me at the door. He looked smaller than I remembered. The power that used to radiate from him had dimmed, replaced by something I'd never seen before. Fear. Sloane. Thank you for coming. I didn't hug him. Didn't reach for him. I simply walked past and sat in the chair across from his desk. The same chair I'd sat in 8 years ago when I'd asked for a seat at the table and been told to find a husband instead. You wanted to see me. He sat down heavily. You know about our situation. I know you're about to lose everything our family has built. Yes. It's not my fault. The market, the partners, It's Bradley's fault. Yours. We both know that. He flinched. Bradley made some mistakes. Bradley destroyed this company because you gave him power he never earned and couldn't handle. You chose him because he was male. You dismissed me because I wasn't. And now here we are. Silence. Long, heavy silence. What do you want me to say, Sloane? That I was wrong. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to listen. I pulled a folder from my bag and laid it on his desk. This is an acquisition proposal. Apex Development, in partnership with Hale Capital, will purchase Wheeler Industries. We'll assume your debts, retain most of your workforce, and restructure the company for long-term viability. My father opened the folder. Read the first page. Then the second. His face shifted through confusion, disbelief, and something that might have been hope. You want to save us. I want to buy you. There's a difference. What are the terms? Full acquisition. No Wheeler family members in executive positions. Bradley will be offered a severance package. You will retain a ceremonial seat on the board with no voting power. The company will be renamed Apex Wheeler, and I will serve as CEO. He stared at me. You want to take my company. I want to save your company. But yes, when I'm done, it will be mine. And if I refuse, lean back. Then you default on your loans in 4 months. The banks will force a fire sale. You'll get pennies on the dollar, and some vulture fund will strip the company for parts. Your legacy, grandfather's legacy, gone. Your choice. The boardroom was silent. My father had called an emergency meeting. Himself, Bradley, the board members, the lawyers. They sat around the long table like men at a funeral, which in some ways they were. I stood at the head of the room. My room now, or it would be soon. The terms are non-negotiable, I said. Full acquisition. Complete restructuring. New leadership team which I will select. Any Wheeler family member who wishes to remain with the company will start at entry level and work their way up like everyone else. Bradley slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. Dad, you can't let her do this. She's stealing our company. I'm buying your company. With money I earned building my own. Money I earned after you spent 6 years taking credit for my work, and Dad spent 30 years telling me girls don't run companies. I looked at my father. How does that feel now, Dad? Knowing a girl is your only option. He said nothing. He couldn't. The documents are ready, I continued. Sign them today and we begin restructuring tomorrow. Refuse and I walk away. The banks won't be as generous. Bradley stood up. I won't be part of this. I won't work for her. Good. I met his eyes. That makes this easier. He stormed out. The door slammed behind him. I turned to my father. Well, Donald Wheeler, the man who had built an empire and then handed it to a son who destroyed it, looked at his daughter for what might have been the first time. You really did it, he said quietly. Everything I said you couldn't do. Yes, I did. I was wrong. Yes, you were. He picked up the pen. His hand trembled slightly. Your grandfather would be proud, he said. I know. That's why I'm doing this. He signed. The next 6 months were transformation. I brought in my own team. We cut waste, renegotiated contracts, rebuilt relationships with clients who had been neglected. We launched the Sustainable Development Division I had proposed a decade earlier. We modernized systems that hadn't been updated since my father took over. It was hard. Some days felt impossible. But I had spent my whole life preparing for impossible. By the end of year 1, Apex Wheeler was profitable again. By year 2 we were growing. By year 3, we were worth twice what Wheeler Industries had been at its peak. My father attended board meetings but rarely spoke. He watched his daughter run the company he had refused to let her touch, and whatever he felt about it, he kept to himself. Bradley disappeared. Last I heard, he was in Florida, living off the severance package, telling anyone who would listen that his sister had stolen his birthright. Let him tell it. History has a way of correcting itself. Last month, I stood in the lobby of our new headquarters. The building was everything Wheeler Industries never was. Sustainable, modern, designed to inspire rather than intimidate. On the wall where my grandfather's portrait used to hang, there was now a different display. Photos of every major project we'd completed, every community we'd rebuilt, every life we'd changed. My portrait wasn't there. I didn't need it to be. Victor found me standing there looking up at the wall. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking about what my father said to me when I was 28. That girls don't run companies. They marry men who do. And, smiled. I married a man who runs a company. And I run a bigger one. He laughed. Should I be threatened? You should be proud. You helped me build this. You built this, Sloane. I just invested in the obvious. I took his hand. Looked around at the building, the people, the future we were creating. My father thought he was teaching me my place, I said. He didn't realize he was teaching me his weaknesses. Every time he dismissed me, I got smarter. Every time he underestimated me, I got stronger. Every time he told me no, I found a way to make my own yes. And now I run everything he said I couldn't. And I do it better than he ever did. I don't hate my father. Hate requires energy I'd rather spend building. What I feel for him is something closer to pity. He spent his whole life believing that power followed a certain shape, a certain gender, a certain path. He never realized that the world was changing, or that his own daughter would be the one to prove him wrong. He's 72 now. His health is declining. Some days he comes to the office just to sit in the corner of the cafeteria and watch people work. Let him. It seems to bring him peace. Bradley never apologized. Never acknowledged what he did or what I accomplished. But that's okay. His acknowledgement was never the point. The point was this. I spent 30 years being told I was less. Too female. Too ambitious. Too much. Now I am the CEO of a company worth $800 million. I employ 3,000 people. I build things that will outlast me. And every morning I wake up in a life I created. Not inherited, not given, not approved by anyone but myself. That's not revenge. That's justice. My mother called me last week. First time in years. Your father talks about you constantly, she said. He tells everyone who will listen about his daughter, the CEO. He's proud, Sloane. He really is. Is that why you're calling? To tell me he's proud? I'm calling because I'm proud too. I know I never said it. I know I never. I wasn't the mother you deserved. I was too afraid to be anything other than what he wanted. I know, Mom. You broke the pattern. You became something none of us thought was possible. And I just wanted you to know that I see it. I see you. I didn't cry. I'd used up all those tears years ago. Thank you, I said. That means something. Does it? It means you finally opened your eyes. Better late than never. We talked for an hour after that. Not about the past, about the future. About who I was becoming. About who she wished she had been. It wasn't forgiveness. Not exactly. But it was something. Beginning, maybe. After all these years. If you're out there, the overlooked daughter, the dismissed sister, the girl who was told she couldn't, I want you to know something. They're wrong about you. Not mistaken. Not confused. Won't. Their inability to see your value is not evidence of your worthlessness. It's evidence of their blindness. Their limitations. Their fear of what you might become if they ever let you try. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need their blessing. You need your own belief. Your own work. Your own relentless, unstoppable forward motion. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you'll stand at the head of a table that used to exclude you. And they'll have no choice but to see what was there all along. Leader. Builder. Force. If this story satisfies you somewhere deep, then subscribe to Revenge Avenue. The next story might feel as familiar as your own family.